I want to congratulate you all, right? I mean, you have worked really hard to get here. You've had some tremendous changes going on. Congratulations on getting to step 4. Very exciting. You're not done yet. Everybody got that? You're not done yet. You are 3/4 of the way done if you're ready to go into step 4. How many of you are in step 2 still right now taking the drops? Anybody? One person? The 4 of you are completely done. You did your 2 off days too? Okay. So that's definitely something we'll make sure we touch on.
I forgot to raise my hand, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're still on the low-cal?
Yep.
Okay, good. So you just want to know what's coming. Absolutely. All right, so we'll talk about that too because we want to make sure you come off of the diet properly. Step 3 is 2 days long, right? And then step 4 is transition. It's definitely, this is the transition time is to really get your body acclimated to taking in more calories, right? Adding more foods, because now, before you were in subtraction world, right? You subtracted everything out except for the list. Now you're in addition world, and for some people, does that bring anxiety? Anybody? Yeah, usually women shake their head yes. Usually men are like, I'm ready. Okay, so, all right, so, just so, the scope of this class is really 3 different things, okay? We're going to be talking about the mental, emotional part of where you've been and where you're going. We're going to talk about the logistics of transition, and then we're going to talk about step 5, right? Which is real life, right? What do you do after this, right? Because that's a big concern for people. You've been living in a very structured world. You've gotten pretty comfortable there. You're okay with it. You're safe, right? And that's how you feel. You're very safe here. It's a small box, but it's okay. And so, yeah, we get used to solitary confinement. But now you're moving out into general population, right? Now, you're not completely out of prison yet. But you now are moving into general population. Step 5 is when you're allowed to just leave, right? And walk out. Yeah. And if you ever watched Shawshank Redemption, you might be Brooks right now, who's petrified to go out into the real world, right? And that's not where we want you to be. There's no reason for you to be like that, right? But if we can equip you with some really good tools to use when you get out there, you'll be fine. So I do want to talk to you about the physical reasons of why, of what you've done and why you're not going to wake up at 6 a.m. on Monday morning and all the weight's just going to be back on, right? And I want to also go through with you as well the physical ways of making sure that you keep your blood sugar levels stable and all of that as well, okay? All right, so if I could ask each one of you to give me an action that you did on this program that helped you be successful. Neil, give me one.
I did everything I was told to do.
Thank you. Which included, you didn't cheat, right? You stuck to your...
No, I did my exercise.
Yep.
I prepared my meals.
Everybody prepped? Yep. Yep. Okay. What else? Add to it.
Just not skipping the drops.
Okay. Yeah. You definitely stuck to your supplement the way you were supposed to. Add to it.
Food prep was the big
Food prep. Absolutely. What else?
Thinking of myself and prepping.
You what?
Thinking of myself and prep my food.
Okay. So you made some mental adjustments. Yeah. Yeah. And everybody had to do that. You had to make some mental adjustments to make sure that what you needed came first.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. What else? Drinking water. Yeah. Drinking water. She's drinking her water right now, right? Were you more cognizant about just taking care of yourself as far as stress and sleep? Anybody?
Yes.
You're more cognizant about that. That's important.
I slept better.
Yeah, yeah. And you could name 10 things, 15 things that you did to be successful, right? And then there was only one thing that was named here that was kind of out of your control, so to speak, or you didn't have control over, and that was the effect of the drops on you. Right? The drops affected your body in a way where it forced detox, and then you staying on the diet is what encouraged the weight loss. Because if you don't do the drops and the diet together, it won't work. So the drops are the only thing. Out of 10 things, one of them wasn't you, right? But you prepped, You made choices when you went out. You drank your water. You made sure you put yourself first. All the things that you mentioned, and you could probably, if I gave you enough time, name 10 more. My point in doing this with people is to say to you, if you made those choices to get here, you can continue to make those choices to keep you where you're at or get better. Why? Because you worked really hard to get where you're sitting right now, and you're not going to let any event get in your way. Does that make sense to everybody? Because those events will come. You guys know they're going to get more of them. Probably 3 more after that this month. Right? I mean, seriously, there's always something going on. There's never a good time to do a diet, ever, come in your way. Now, when you come off of the program, you will be allowed to have some of those events come back into your life with no issues at all. There's no reason why you can't have 2 meals a week be your cheat meals. None. So after transition step 4 is over, step 5 really is all about learning how to live, making good choices, and twice a week, 2 meals a week, relax, have the fried calamari, right? Have the cannoli. It's not a big deal. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, I'm going to say that with a little asterisk next to it because I have to put an asterisk next to mine. If you are a bread fiend like I am, don't go to bread. That's not a weakness. That's a strength on your part if you know that that's a slippery slope for you. Okay? You put me in Cosmos with that cheesy bread, and I want 2 baskets, not 1. And I'm not sharing the one that they put me either. You see what I'm saying? Okay, when I was growing up, bread and butter was on the table every single meal. If that's a slippery slope for you, don't go near it. That's it. And again, that is not a weakness. That is a strength. Because if there was an alcoholic sitting next to you and he said, I can't go in that bar because I used to be an alcoholic, you wouldn't say, loser. You should be able to deal with that. You wouldn't say that. Right? That'd be ridiculous. No, it's strength for him to know that he shouldn't walk into that, and it's strength for him to walk past the door, right? And that's exactly how you have to look at it as well. Because if there's a food that was a major trigger for you, that's okay. You don't need it anyway, okay? And you don't want to cause that, allow that to be back into your life, and then you start going in directions that you shouldn't go into. And physically speaking, your brain knows exactly what it is, and if you introduce it again, you're not only dealing with your mental emotional part of, oh, I shouldn't have had that, but now you're dealing with a physical issue as well, right? So you don't want that either, okay? All right, so you slowly get used to your life being a certain way, or you slowly get used to your life subtracting things like bike riding and playing with the kids. Meanwhile, you're adding all these other foods to your life that are making it worse. And so what we did was subtract all the other food, and now we're adding all the good stuff back, right? And if we could change our perspective on what we're doing now and how much that's worth, we definitely are going to be able to forego the piece of cake because we already had our cheat meal this week, right? We're going to be able to start making different choices and really weighing out our choices and saying, you know what, this is really important to me that I stay here, and so therefore I'm just going to have the salad at this barbecue because I went to a barbecue the other day, right? I mean, we're going to have to be more, we're going to have to weigh out those things more, but we don't mind doing that and put our conscious effort into doing that because of what we have right now and the way you're feeling right now. And when you all first walked in here, I think most of you came to a seminar, I think. When you all first walked in here, the stuff that I put up on the board, what got you into the room at that point? And I remember I put up on the board your choices, your decisions, your stresses, your lifestyle, your habits. Correct? All of those things got you here 5 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever it was. And guess what? All of those things got you here right now. Well, how cool is that? The same exact brain that got you into the mess you were in before is the same exact brain that got you here now. And what's really cool is that you do think on a cellular level, and when you start doing good things for your body, that rewards you. What I want to do is I want you guys to take a look at this because this is the coolest thing ever. Yeah, okay, so you all have one of these, so if you want to take that out, check it out. All right? It's on your clipboard. No, you can't take this home, but I will email you a copy if you want it. All right, so this is actually a blown up picture of what the cell wall looks like. Okay, so this edge right here, this cell wall, grows little hands. to deal with inflammation, to deal with toxins, to deal with chemical reactions. When you have anger, there's a chemical reaction that happens, and there's a certain chemical that floats through the bloodstream, and these little hands catch it, right? And the body has to allow these little hands to grow in order to deal with certain things. So, if you love to eat sugar, right, and you're a sugar person, there's a million little hands that have grown to support all that sugar in your bloodstream. Once your body can't grow any more of those, then you start having diabetes issues. Okay? That's what happens. Now, here's what happens when you guys started the program. You all were detoxing from sugar within the first week or so. Well, you weren't giving all your little hands the sugar. So after the first 2 or 3 days, the sugar was being taken from all the little hands, and all the little hands were empty. Well, by day 4, remember day 4? You were hangry. You were just miserable, right? And why? All these little hands are screaming. They need sugar. And they know if they don't get it, they're not going to be needed any longer, and they're going to die off. Well, that's what happened. All those little hands died off. Good. Yeah, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for little hands to die off, right? So that's why we tell people, please don't cheat on the diet. Because every time you do, you're keeping those little hands alive for another 3 weeks. You see what I'm saying? And then you're going to still deal with it. Now, there's other reasons why people have issues with sugar, and that's a whole different issue if you have a candida overgrowth in your intestinal wall. But for most people, it's this issue here, okay? And it's the brain, mental, emotional stuff, triggers that go off when you have a certain stress that happens in your life, and you used to use chocolate cake to help you, and your brain still knows that chocolate cake exists, and so it's telling you you really just need a piece of chocolate cake and everything will be fine, right? And we use food to fill voids to help us stop thinking about the issue, and now we can think about how good we feel because we just had a great piece of cake, and then an hour later we feel guilty. So not a good plan, but that's what we do, right? So anyway, my point in showing you all this, okay, you think on a cellular level. So I want you to give yourselves a chance to allow the cells to recoup, to allow the cells to do what it has to do to get you where you have to go. If you're trying to build a new habit, it takes like 3 weeks, right? It takes 3 weeks to, and if you fail and you trip up and you don't do what you were supposed to do, it's going to take some more time for you to continue to build that habit. But we as human beings have to give ourselves the chance. Too many times we quit too soon. Too many times we stop and we go, oh my God, I'm never gonna fix this. You know what, this is just how I am. I mean, how many times have we said that? Oh, my mother was like this, my father was like this, my grandmother was like this. It's not genetic. You can fix it. You have your own little cells, it's okay. Now, are we at times genetically predisposed? Sure, we are. But when it comes to mental, emotional things, that stuff can always be fixed. We just have to figure out what the triggers were, and we have to work on it long enough and give ourselves the opportunity to do that. Okay? Now, the other thing I do like to talk about during this thing is, physically speaking, talking about the cell walls. What you've done over the last 5 months, whatever, however many days you've been on, what you've been doing is you have been emptying out all your cells of fat because your body needed fat because you weren't giving it any, right? I mean, this was a low-fat, almost zero-fat diet, so the body was taking fat from within because it needed it. What you've been doing is emptying out those cells of the fat. So the only way that fat molecules can move back into that cell is if the gate is opened, because fat molecules, they're too big to permeate through the cell wall alone. Vitamins and minerals can go right through, but fat molecules are different. So if the gate is open, then the fat can go through, and then when the gate closes, it traps it in. The only thing that opens the gate is your insulin levels going up. Well, what makes insulin levels go up? Sugar, right? And that could be in the form of carbs, white bread, white spaghetti, white rice, you know, right? So a lot of dried fruit, high in sugar, right? Juices, really high in sugar, right? I mean, that's just sugar liquid. No fiber at all, right? So high sugar stuff will trigger insulin, will open the walls, and that will allow fat molecules to move in. That's why baked goods are so detrimental, because it's usually white flour or whatever mixed with fat and sugar all at the same time. So we are opening the gates and letting the fat come in, right? And that's why baked goods are so detrimental. But we need to, during step 4, we still need to stay away from carbs and sugar. Okay, we have to keep our blood sugar levels nice and stable, and that's what's been going on the whole diet. During the step 2 diet, you have kept your blood sugar levels nice and stable, and there's no reason to have all those roller coasters that we used to have whenever we used to have to eat something to bring ourselves back up again, and then we would crash again, and we have to eat something to bring ourselves back up again. No more of that, right? And because you've really cleaned out a lot of the toxins that also caused that to happen, you're not going to have those when you go into transition either, okay? So when you are in transition, that's the one thing that well, I'll say two things that you must stay away from. No alcohol either in transition, okay? You want to stay away from that. You still want to give your liver every opportunity it can to detoxify, okay? All right, so here you are in step 2. You're on low-cal, 2 fruits, 2 veggies, 2 proteins, right? So when your supplement runs out or you just want to stop, all right? And if you do have extra supplement, by the way, you can put it in the fridge if you want to save it for some other time, right? So, but most people come off because they run out of drops. That's when I stopped. Oh, when are you stopping? When my drops run out. So here you are in the middle. 2 fruits, 2 veggies, 2 proteins, your water, you're weighing yourself, and you're taking your supplements, right? When you decide to stop is when you're going to go out into step 3 in the purple. Now, you're doing the exact same thing in step 3, except no drops. You're still doing 2 fruits, 2 veggies, 2 proteins, 2 breadsticks, no drops, you're weighing, and you're still taking all that water in. Okay? That's it. That's the only difference between step 2 and step 3, is no more drops. But it's only for 2 days. Okay? Then you're going to go into step 4. All right, now step 4 is, now you can have all the proteins, right? Please still stay away from pork, though. Okay, pork is well, in this country, pork has tons of antibiotics and hormones and just nastiness. But stay away from pork for right now. But you can have salmon again. Right, and there's not really too many. Was there any really proteins that you missed out on? There's some fishes that you couldn't have, but there really wasn't too many proteins that you were missing out on, right? So you can now have all the proteins, and the specifics of each one of the food categories are in that colored manual. Okay, and we'll go over that in just a minute, but the specifics are in there. So here's what you can do. So now you can have all the fruits. Okay, yes, you can have watermelon and pears and peaches and, Bananas and grapes we want you to be careful with. They're the highest ones in sugar, highly absorbable. 88 calories in a cup of grapes, 80 of them are from sugar. That's why we love wine so much. So, okay, besides the other great effects. So we want you to be careful with grapes and bananas. Not that you can't have it, but small amounts. Okay, dried fruit is another thing. Okay, you can have some craisins on your salad, right? You can, what other? Sun-dried tomatoes, you can have some of those. Right? But you really want to be careful and have small amounts of the dried fruits. What else? Vegetables. You can have them all. Okay? You can have green beans now and peppers and mushrooms. They're not a vegetable, but you can add those back in. You can have the beets and the carrots if you want to as well. Be careful with those because those are pretty high in sugar. You can't have the starchy stuff though. No potatoes still. No sweet potatoes. Pumpkin, stay away from the starchy, thicker kind of thing. You can still do, obviously, the zucchini, the spaghetti squash, all of that, that's fine. There's no more rules about not mixing cooked vegetables, right? Isn't that annoying? So now you can have stir fries, okay? And then also, too, you can add back in some oils now, okay? I'm not a fan of canola oil, so I say stay away from canola oil altogether. Safflower oil, sunflower oil, all of those are more inflammatory. Grapeseed oil is great. Olive oil is terrific. Coconut oil, terrific. Okay, those 3 are great. Use them. So you can have add some dairy back in, right? If you want to have your Greek yogurt again, right? If you want to have a little cottage cheese, something like that. It's all okay now. You do want to be careful with dairy and cheese, right? Cheese is just like chocolate. It affects dopamine levels in the same way, right? It does affect your brain the same exact way that chocolate does. It will raise dopamine levels, and it's highly addictive. So stay away from cheese if you know it's a slippery slope. Okay? I'm a huge cheese lover. I cannot eat blue cheese. Cannot. I love it. Cannot. It gives me weird Charlie horses in my left foot, and I get these weird shaky things in my right leg. It is so stupid. I don't understand it, but every time I have my hot wings with blue cheese, that is what happens with me. So I get all these weird Charlie horses, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't use this stuff anymore. And that's something that I want to talk to you about too. You have been on a terrific elimination diet. You really have. You've eliminated everything bad. Or should I say, usually allergies, right? You've eliminated nuts, eggs for the most part, maybe twice a week, that's not too bad, right? Almost all dairy. I mean, skim milk really isn't dairy, right? What else? Gluten, pretty much, except for the 2 breadsticks, you've eliminated it, right? So you have eliminated soy. There's the other one. Those are the 5 top allergens in the country. You've eliminated all of those. And so at this point right now, if any of those things were causing inflammation in you over the years, you had little hands that grew on your cell walls to deal with dairy inflammation, egg inflammation, gluten inflammation. You've had all those little hands to support what you've been doing. Now that you've eliminated all of that, almost 100%, what happened to those little hands? They're gone. Those little hands that would deal with inflammation from those things are now gone. If you go and add something new into your diet and you feel it, guess what? That was causing inflammation in you all along, but you were used to it. It's just like an alcoholic. When he first starts out, he can only have 1 glass and he's drunk, right? By the time 20 years goes by, he can have like 8 or 9 and he's still okay. It's the same idea. Your body does adapt to what you're doing for survival. So it will keep adding on those little hands to deal with issues that you keep feeding it. But then if you do remove it, now, once you put it back in, you're going to feel it. So it's actually a really great thing that you've done as far as figuring out, okay, what causes me to have inflammation? If you're eating things that are inflammatory to you, you will start snoring again, even if you didn't gain the weight back. Because the inflammation is what's causing all this in the esophagus, the lungs, and all of that here, and the sinuses, right? So you want to make sure when you put something new into your body, you want to make sure that you write it down. Okay? Write it down. Pay attention for an hour later, 3 hours later, and the next day. Pay attention. Because if you experience any kind of aching or pain, if you experience hunger or you experience being tired, you know that you should have done something differently. Now, being tired could also be maybe your portion was too big. So you have to watch your portion sizes. All right? So when you're in transition, what I like to do, because people still want structure, right? Now, Dr. Simeons never gave structure for transition. He told people, listen, you have to pay attention to your body. If you're eating too much, you're going to know it. Pay attention. But Dr. Simeons, what do I do? No, you eat healthy. That's what you do. That was his suggestion. Well, that's a problem, right? Well, back then in the 1950s in Rome, they had different choices than we do right now in this country. And not everything came in a bag, and the bread only lasted a day, not 2 weeks. So, there's a big difference in the food. So, and there's a big difference socially and mentally back then about eating as well, right? Okay, so what does eating healthy mean to you? Because I don't care what Dr. Simeon says, you want structure, right? So what I'm doing with people is I'm saying to them, okay, you need to do the 1, 2, 3 method. Now, I made that up, just so you know, okay? That's me making that up. The 1, 2, 3 method. Add 1 extra fruit if you want. I'm not a big fruit eater. I only have 2 a day. I don't want fruit. But if somebody is a big fruit eater and they like it, add a 3rd fruit. That's more than enough sugar for the day, okay? Double your protein. That's where the 2 comes in. Double your protein, okay? And the 3 is triple your vegetable. And honestly, You could quadruple it, I don't care. Vegetables will not make you fat, okay? So the 1, 2, 3 method really kind of gives you some kind of a structure that you can do. So add an extra fruit, double your protein, triple your vegetable. And when you're looking at your plate, your protein really should be the size of the palm of your hand. 4 to 6 ounces, guys, is really the most our stomachs can digest at one time. I know we all like the 16 ounce at Texas Roadhouse or something, but we can't eat that much really, right? And of course I'm joking because most of us are like, oh God, that's disgusting. Although I could put one of those down, just so you know. I love steak. 4 to 6 ounces, okay? That's the normal protein that we should be taking in anyway. So the 3.5 that you guys were doing over the last, however many weeks is not that far off, okay? So 4 to 6 ounces is what is considered normal. The rest of your plate should be filled up with vegetables in some form, whether it's sauteed broccoli now or not, right? I mean, now you can saute your vegetables if you want to with a little olive oil, garlic, lemon, little white wine. Great, have it, okay? Saute, do a stir fry, right? Because now you're allowed to mix all your vegetables, so, so do a stir fry, right? So that's really what you want to look at. You want to look at, that type of a plate. So some of these wonderful salads that you can get now, some of the walnuts and the craisins and I guess some blue cheese I have to order it without, but you know what I'm talking about, that great salad that you can get at any diner or whatever now. Perfect, have it, because you're allowed to have nuts, you're allowed to have cheese, okay? You just want to be careful with them. Make sure they're not candy-coated pecans like I would order, right? So here's the deal, 1, 2, 3 method, and you can add in your additional healthy choices like avocado again, right? You can add that kind of stuff back in, okay? You want to always continue with your water. I'm going to tell you right now, the number one reason why people start gaining weight back is because they stop drinking their water. Number one, okay? So please keep drinking your water. That is a must. You have to have it. And weighing yourself. Now, I've done this whole thing, looked at the internet and, all those blogs, blah, 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 about how you should not be getting on that scale. You shouldn't be. Not in my world. And the reason why I tell people that I think it's a really good idea to get on the scale, here's the thing. At this point right now, you know that scale is not your enemy anymore, right? The scale is there, though, just to let you know how the outside world is affecting your body. It is not your success-o-meter. It's just letting you know, hey, you're probably holding some water today. It's up a pound, right? A pound of fat is 3,500 calories. 3,500 calories. None of you are going to eat 3,500 calories in a day. You're just not. Unless, of course, you're going to Golden Corral or something, right? None of you are going to do that. So here's the thing. Is it fat? No. So you have to think about it. All right, did you have extra sodium stuff? Did you eat out yesterday? Because we all know when you eat out, you're going to have extra sugar and extra, salt or whatever. Okay. If so, drink some extra water. Okay? Don't worry about that. That scale should stay within 2 pounds up or down of your weight. So when I stopped the program, I was 150. It should read 152. I'm not jumping off a bridge. It should read 148. Perfect. Anywhere in between there is supposed to be. It is completely normal for you to put on 2 pounds up or down from your stop weight. That's it. It's normal. Don't freak out. Okay? Now, if you put on 3 or 4, that's a lot, right? In one day, that would be a lot, right? So if that's the case, and here's the thing. You know what you did the day before or the weekend before, right? So if you did something the weekend before or the day before that man, that was probably not a good idea. All right, so that day, I want you to drink a lot of extra water, and I want you to eliminate all the extras that we just added in, right? The avocado, the nuts, the cheese. You see what I'm saying? Eliminate all that outside stuff. Get back to the basics today. Add in extra water, and I guarantee you'll be fine the next day. Okay, well, let's say you're not. Okay, so that's where that steak apple day comes in. That steak apple day is on the last page of your transition manual. Okay? And what you can do is apple for breakfast, steak apple for lunch, apple for dinner. It has to be grass-fed. Don't eat corn-fed, right? Now, does it have to be in the middle of the day for lunch? It could be for dinner. Because logistically speaking, it's tough for people to eat a steak in the middle of the day, especially if it's a weekday, all right? Why do I say in the middle of the day? Because that's when your digestive system is burning the hottest. And you have it in your belly at 12, 1 o'clock, guess what? You're carrying it all the way through now, and by the time you go to bed, it's gone, right? If you have it for dinner, you're probably going to go to bed with some of it. You see what I'm saying? That's the only reason why I changed it to lunch. But if you have to have it for dinner, you have it for dinner. No big deal. All right? Drink lots of water on your steak apple day, and the next day you'll drop 1, 2 pounds, if not more. Okay? Now, I want you to remember something. That steak apple day is forever. It's not just transition. So if you have an issue during transition and you want to use your steak apple day, fine, use it. If you keep finding yourself having to use steak apple days, you better check out what you're eating. Right? Because maybe the nuts and craisins aren't a good idea for you. All right? So please pay attention. Please pay attention. Aches, pains, tiredness, and if you're hungry. All right? Now here's the other thing I want you to pay attention to. If you find that you're hungry like an hour or two after you've eaten and you feel like you need to go eat again, you probably had something too high in sugar and your blood sugar levels are dropping and you feel like you have to bring it back up again and you're hungry and you want to eat again. I need you to look back and see what you had. But all the different categories are in here. Okay? The other thing that people always ask about is exercise during transition and what about after. Okay? I think it's a really good idea, and I'm going to say this. Women, start doing some weightlifting. Seriously, start building muscle. Right? And of course you too, but women don't like doing that, so I have to address them specifically. Start building muscle. Okay? 1 pound of muscle burns 130 calories. 1 pound of fat burns 3. Okay? So start building muscle. And fat doesn't turn into muscle. That's so ridiculous. Okay? But start doing something a little at a time. All right? Now, the first week in transition, I really just want you to just kind of keep doing what you're doing right now. If you're walking 3 times a week already, just stick with that and don't do any more. Okay? But week 2, week 3, okay, add some more in. Okay? Make sure, though, that you're getting enough calories to support that. If you keep finding yourself hungry on transition, we literally have people calling us, "Hi, I'm starving on transition." Okay, then eat. Eat some more food then. Maybe you should try that, right? And we want you to, if you're hungry, then that means you need to eat more food, right? Make good choices, but eat more food, all right? But as for right now, eat till you're satisfied. Chew your food really good. That's another big issue why people don't digest right. We're not chewing our food. Please start chewing more. Okay, that's another thing. I wrote it in here. Now, after transition is over, step 5, right? Everybody wants to know, what do I do later? Again, I told you, 90-10 rule. 90% of the time, you want to make sure you're eating whole, healthy food just like you are in transition. You can eat the healthy fats. You can add that kind of stuff in. And you are making sure that, you're making good choices when you go out, and most of the time you want to be making your own food, or somebody that you know is making the food. And don't tell me you know the guy at Franco's, and that's not what I'm talking about. I know him too, right? So, but it's somebody you or you know is making the food. So you know where the food's coming from, right? 10% of the time, 2 meals a week, have your cheat meals. Okay? And that's not going to be, a big deal. It just isn't. Your body can handle twice a week you having something a little off-key. Not a big deal. Okay? So 90-10 rule for step 5. Okay? And again, you want to use those 2 meals. You want to use them, what's the word I'm looking for? I can never think of the word. Well, whatever. Sparingly, yeah. But you want to use them smart too. Like, look at your calendar ahead. Right? If you know there's something coming up and you want to use one of them for that, then plan it out. Right? So, you want to make sure you're looking at it ahead just like you are right now and using those appropriately. During step 5, you also have to, the mental emotional part of this needs to continue. Okay? You need to continue to look at who you are and why you tick. You need to continue to examine why did I react like that? That diet that you just did, it was exhausting at times, wasn't it? Did you want to prep your food all the time? Did you want to make those choices? Was it exhausting sometimes to, oh my God, I got to drink this damn water. I keep peeing, right? And what I'm saying to you is that you willingly put yourself into a situation that was really difficult. And you stuck with it. You built up self-integrity while doing it because you said you were going to do something and you did it. All of these things were happening. You willingly put yourself in that situation and you learned from it. And the reason why this diet for so many people, this program for so many people is successful is because it really does show them who they are and they can learn from that. And that's where you guys need to take the next step. Take all the learning that you've done and really be conscientious about the fact that you are capable of changing old habits. This old dog, new trick thing, BS. You are totally capable of learning and changing and making amazing changes that not only made a difference for you, but inspired how many people? How many people? Neil, when you see somebody you haven't seen for 10 years, they are going to be blown away. Blown away. And don't give all the credit to us either. We gave you 1 out of 9. Correct? Yeah. They're going to be blown away by all of your results. So make sure. It was simple, but it wasn't easy. And make sure you tell them that. Right? You're here because of you. You're here because of the things that you did.